Capitulum 12, Pericula Maris, Lecture 6, versus centesimus nonus usque adversum centesimum tricesimum quartum. Gubernator, qui medum attentum videt, num tu inquit tam stultus es, ut haec credas, mi nemo persuadebit, hominem super mare ambulare posse. The helmsman, who sees that Medus is attent, that he is intent, that he is paying attention, accusative with infinitive, understood esse, or we could understand it just as a direct object with that attendant adjective attentum, agreeing with medum. You aren't, are you, num tu? You aren't so stupid, are you, that you believe these things? Another consecutive sentence, ut haec credas, following on this condition indicated by tam stultus. You aren't so stupid, are you, with the consequence being that you believe these things. Haec, neuter accusative plural, credas, the present subjunctive. Mihi nemo persuadebit hominem super mare ambulare posse. No one, future tense, will persuade me, with a dative object, of the accusative with infinitive. No one will persuade me that a human being can walk upon the sea. Christus non est homo, sed filius Dei, qui omnia facere potest. Lydia answers, Christ is not a human being, but the Son of God, who can do everything. Leaving aside points of theological nicety, ipse dixit, he himself has said, data est mihi omnis potestas in caelo et in terra. All power has been given to me. Data est, perfect tense, passive voice, has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Lydia goes on. Modo nos e tempestate servavit. Just a moment ago, he saved us, nos the direct object, from the storm, e tempestate, servavit, perfect tense, active voice. Nonne id tibi persuasit, eum habere potestatem maris et ventorum. That persuaded you, right? That he has power over the sea and the winds. Nonne, expecting an affirmative answer. Id, a neuter nominative referring to the whole of the first line, or the condition or the fact presented by the first line. Didn't that persuade you, dative object with persuasit? Persuasit, the perfect tense of the verb, followed by an accusative with infinitive. That he has power, genitives, of the sea and of the winds, but we wouldn't say that probably in English. We would say over the sea and over the winds. Audi igitur, quod in eodem libro narratur, de potestate Christi. So listen to that which, another understood id or illud before the quod. Listen to that which, quad relative pronoun, is told, is narrated in the same book, eodem, idem, eadem, idem, the same. In the same book about the power of Christ, de potestate Christi. Et ascendente eo in naviculam, secuti sunt eum discipuli eius. And as he was getting up, getting on board the little ship, his disciples followed him. Ascendente eo, ablative absolute, secuti sunt, perfect tense, passive in form, active in meaning, because it's from a deponent verb, sequor, sequi, secutum esse. Et ecce tempestas magna facta est in mari. And behold, a great storm, magna tempestas, came about, happened, facta est. Perfect tense, not really passive voice, though the idea is passive in form certainly, but it's the verb fieri, which is always passive. Happened, took place in the sea, in mari, ablative. Ita ut navicula operiretur fluctibus, ipse vero dormiebat. So great, in fact, that, ita ut, such that, so that. We saw a sentence like this earlier, but the ita was placed in the first clause next to the idea that was going to set up this consequence. Now, perhaps here it would be next to mania. The storm was so great that the little boat was being covered with waves. Operiretur, passive voice, third person singular, imperfect subjunctive. The subject is navicula. So back then, the controlling verb in the main clause facta est, this thing happened, and then there was this consequence that the little ship was being covered with waves. Fluctus, fluctus. So fluctibus, ablative plural, fourth declension. But he was sleeping, but he himself was sleeping. Dormiebat, imperfect tense. Et accesserunt ad eum discipuli eius, et suscitaverunt eum dicentes. And his disciples came up to him, perfect tense, and they woke him. Suscitaverunt, saying, dicentes. Accesserunt and suscitaverunt, both perfect tense, active voice. Dicentes, present participle, telling us about discipuli, what they were doing when those main verbs took place. Domine, salva nos, perimus. O Lord, save us, we are perishing. Salva, imperative from salvare, pereo, perire, a long I family verb given in the margin on page 226, pereo, perire, periise. We are perishing. Ait illis Jesus. Jesus says to them, Quid timidi estis? Why are you afraid? Again, quid is a synonym for cur. Tunc surgens imperavit ventis et mari, et facta est tranquillitas mania. Then, rising, he commanded the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Surgens, present participle. Imperavit, perfect tense, taking a dative object. Ventis, dative plural. Mari, dative, singular of the third declension. And there's that verb again, facta est. And a great calm happened, took place, came about. Homines autem mirati sunt dicentes. But the men marveled, saying, mirati, perfect tense, passive form, but it's a deponent verb, mirari. But the men marveled, saying, Qualis est hic? What sort of man is this? No macron over the hic, so hic hoc, the demonstrative, this, not the adverb here. What sort of man is this? Qualis est hic vir? Qualis est hic homo? Quod venti et mare obediunt ei. That the winds and the sea obey him. Obediunt, present tense, with a dative object, ei. Mare et venti nemini obediunt nisi Neptuno. The gubernator responds, the sea and the winds obey no one except Neptune. Nemo, neminis, nemini. Nullius homo is the genitive there. We would think neminis, but that word is actually defective. That is, it does not have all of its forms that we would expect. So we would expect that we could put it through the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative singular. But in fact, we have to reach back and use nullus homo in some instances. So nemo, we can say, then nullius hominis, then nemini in the dative, we do have that form that we see here, and then neminem, we do have the accusative, but then for the ablative, we're back to nullo homine, nullo homine. The sea and the winds obey no one except Neptune, the gubernator says. Ille curavit, ut nos et tempestate servaremur, neve mergeremur. Per potius nos ipsi, qui merces eiecimus. That guy saw to it, he took care that we were saved from the storm, and that we were not drowned. Curavit, the controlling verb, setting up this dependent clause. A verbum studii et voluntatis, as we first saw in chapter 27. He took care that we were saved, servaremur, and that we were not drowned, both those verbs, servaremur and mergeremur. Imperfect subjunctives, first person plural, passive voice. Vel potius nos ipsi, or rather, potius, or rather, we ourselves saw to it that we were not drowned, right? We ourselves curavimos, ut nos et tempestate servaremur, neve mergeremur. We ourselves, who had done what? Well, who had thrown out, not pluperfect, but we who did throw out the merchandise. Qui merces eiecimus, we who threw out the merchandise, the wares that belong to the mercator, to the merchant. Nolite vero censere nos iam extra periculum esse, but do not think that we are now out of danger. Extra with the accusative case. Iam, now, or already outside of danger. So nolite censere, setting up an accusative with infinitive construction, mind and mouth verb there, censere, do not suppose that we are already out of danger. Tempestas quidem desiit, sed multa alia pericula nobis impendent. The storm, indeed, has stopped. Desiit, perfect tense. Desinit, present tense. But many other dangers hang over us. Impendent. Pendere, to hang. Impendent, to hang against, to hang over, with the dative there. So we could say hang over, loom over, or coming up ahead, they're impending. Ut saxa quibus naves franguntur, like rocks, by which ships are broken. Quibus ablative. Voragines, whirlpools, in quas naves merguntur, into which ships are submerged, into which ships go down. Predones maritimi, sea bandits, sea pirates, predones, who chase ships qui naves persecuntur, ut merces et pecuniam rapiant nautasque occidant, who chase ships in order to seize, snatch wares, goods, merces, and money, and to kill sailors. Rapiant, occidant, present subjunctive in this dependent clause, following on that verb persecuntur, a verb of endeavoring. They try, they are chasing ships with this aim or end in mind. Semper in pericolo versamo, we are always in danger. We don't need to do something special there for versari, a deponent verb in English. We could just say we are, or we go about, we live, always in danger.